This is Sparta!
Eric, it's just the Suns front office.
Psychos and sickos unite for another edition of PHNX Suns right here on PHNX Sports. I'm Eric, that's Steven, Gerald, Noah, whole crew here with you for a Friday fun day as we try to pick up the pieces of what was a massive news day yesterday. We're going to read some fan reactions, talk about what we think Brian Gregory has to do to earn back the faith, or to just earn the faith of Phoenix Suns fans. And at the very end, we'll talk some NBA playoffs, but most importantly, we will be snake drafting NBA players that we would take in the 100 people versus gorilla fight.
Yes.
That is going to be a fun one. So buckle in, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, everybody. We are about 60 subs away from 40,000 subscribers. I think we can hit that by the end of the show. So hit that subscribe button. Help us reach 40K. How are we doing on a Friday, boys?
Doing great. Looking forward to the weekend. And now that we've had some time to reflect, and everybody's still angry, but
yes,
I'm good. How about you, Steven?
I'm doing excellent. Looking forward to the weekend as well. Got some nice weather coming up. A lot more basketball to come in the postseason sense. And it's also the first day of preseason basketball on the W side. So lots of fun basketball to get to.
I'm just going to spend my weekend rocking back and forth saying, Brian Gregory.
Oh, no.
Brian Gregory. Listen, I feel like yesterday it was such a whirlwind of, hey, the news dropped and then we're live. Then we have like maybe an hour break and then we're back live. And there was just so much going on, bouncing around, that it wasn't until I was chatting with folks in our diehard Discord, Bees and company, and Bees is a very, very positive Arizona sports fan in general, and just getting kind of a temperature check to where I really felt the despair, Gerald, that's overwhelmed this fan base. And while I understand that we have to give Brian Gregory a fair shot, which I'm more than prepared to do, he could be a good GM. The more that I think about it, the more insane this move is to me. I just hope it pays off.
Yeah, and like I've been saying since yesterday, I don't think we're going to have a firm grasp on whether this was a good move that flew under the radar or a bad move like everyone is expecting it to be until not even just this summer, because obviously you have a pivotal summer coming up, but beyond that, like it's probably going to take longer than a season or two to understand the ramifications and the ripple effects of, you know, going with an internal hire, a guy that doesn't have a ton of NBA executive experience, going with someone that if you went around the league to 29 other teams, probably was not on any of their radars for a position like this. Like, this is a very important position. With that being said, you need to see a clear direction this summer. You need to see him nail the offseason this summer. And only then can we start the process of A, evaluating him, and B, earning the trust of a fan base that right now is feeling very guarded and very jaded by, you know, some of the front office and the personnel moves that were coming, especially when such big changes were promised just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I would like for everybody to just take a moment to continue to just breathe. I know most people haven't done it enough since the end of the regular season, and I think a lot of that overlap is taking place with being copied from there and then pasted to the news from yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's not unprecedented that teams have decisions to make in any respect regarding decision-making positions and going forward with something internal versus going to the external, especially if you're trying to build on continuity, especially if you're trying to continue on with the process and maybe even tweak the way you're going about it, but to continue on to working towards something. It's not unprecedented to see this. And I would just like for everybody to just let the dust settle and let things play out. And that will be very beneficial for your health.
Okay.
In addition to all of that.
I know you're talking to me, but
continuing to play the hypotheticals, not the doomsday. Everything does not have to have a bad outcome and reaction to it. Not just you, but you very much fit the description.
Listen.
The shoe fits you.
Don't you want a better weekend plan?
Okay, guys. First of all, this isn't therapy.
Sure,
okay,
it should
this
be.
is the PHNX Suns podcast. Hit that like button. Some people's therapy is the PHNX Suns podcast.
we appreciate
that.
Yes. Keep watching, but also go see a real therapist.
No, but also make sure you breathe. So before you go ahead and speak,
okay,
before you speak,
woosah,
please. Woosah, please.
He wants a woosah.
I didn't ask you inside voice. I know that's impossible, but I know you can.
Okay,
look at that.
Steven, the problem is,
deep breath.
The more that I have just settled down and breathed through this, the worse that I felt about this hire. The more that I've sat down and really tried to just stomach what's been happening, the worse I felt about this hire. The best that I felt about this was when the news came down the other day, and I didn't feel great about it. Here's the thing. Internal hire, when you promise change, does not mean that that's not going to happen. So I get what you're saying. It's happened before. People go internal to solve problems all the time. I get it, right? It is not the fact that he's an internal hire that has my skin crawling about this. And everything that I say, I'm putting to the side of, I'm going to give him a fair shot. He could be great at this job, and he could absolutely be the right hire. So let's take that and put that to the side. Because there are facts to this that are concerning. Number one, does not have a lot of experience in an NBA front office. In fact, a majority of his basketball experience comes from being a head coach. Now, does that mean you can't be a GM? No. But when you're being put in the GM seat in maybe the most important summer in franchise history, with so much more than just player development at the forefront of what's going to save your franchise, that's concerning. Internal development is awesome. It's great. If you were to go to every other franchise and ask them if Brian Gregory would have been a legitimate candidate for them to be the GM if they had a GM opening, obviously, I don't know the for sure answer. I think it would be no. And I think the only reason why he is the GM right now is because Matt Ishbia knows him well. Does that mean he's going to be bad? No. Does that make him qualified for this job? No. It's two separate schools of thought that could be true at the same time to where he deserves a shot. I'm not trying to take any personal jabs at him or say that he doesn't know ball or he can't do any of that. But objectively speaking, on paper, hiring Brian Gregory for what you have to do this summer is a massive risk and massive gamble. And I think people are just done with the risks and the gambles. But it doesn't matter because you're getting them anyway.
Yeah.
That's where I'm sitting.
No, and I get it. And like I've been saying, I think there is legitimate reason to be skeptical. There's reason to be concerned because, like I said, that perception that Matt Ishbia is over-involved, that he is, handpicking his Michigan State people, all of these other things that are being thrown about right now, they feel valid until we see what Brian Gregory can do, until he starts making moves that we're like, okay, I like that move, and starts winning people over and convincing people that he is, not over his head on this. This job is going to go over his head. I think it's reasonable to be skeptical. I also think that he is far too much of an unknown quality for us to know one way or the other. I would feel a lot more comfortable for sure if you had hired someone that had more NBA executive experience at any level, longer than 2 years. I would feel more comfortable if it was an assistant GM from somewhere or even an external candidate with less experience. But I also do think that we just don't know enough. We have a line in a press release about him being involved with the drafting of Dunn and Iguodaro. Obviously we have his background knowledge about his coaching and player development side of things and how they want, the team to get younger and him to be able to help these guys get better on a day-to-day basis, put the right people in spots to do that. I get all of that, but we genuinely just don't know how much insight he's had into the Suns over the last year, whether it's been in the successful things they've done or the very unsuccessful things they've done. And even so, until somebody gets that main job, you're just not going to know how they're going to operate in that capacity. So again, I understand the concern. I understand the skepticism. I think it's warranted. And it's not going to change until he gets in there and starts making moves.
I think I spoke at length about the ambiguity of exactly what his say-so and things was prior to. We know he played a part in certain parts, but what his true volume of say-so was to decisions being made or decisions that maybe even weren't made. And because of that, you still have to just give him opportunity to show what he's worth, to show if he's capable of, or even potentially better than what people might think he's going to be in this role. And then the other thing for me, to one of the points that you made, Eric, no, most teams are not going to go and hire Brian Gregory for their general manager role. That's very true. But you can't tell me that each and every franchise doesn't have a Brian Gregory that's within their structure that they would consider should something happen unforeseen or should there need to be immediate termination of someone in some capacity. Everybody has someone that they will upgrade within to a specific role, whether that be GM, whether that be president, whether that be head coach, whether that be assistant head coach. Everybody has somebody that they would promote in some capacity. And because of that, especially if you're going into a super ambiguous offseason where you have a lot of things that you have to make decisions on, you would rather keep those things aligned principle-wise and through the lens that you're looking at things through with someone that's coming from internal versus external. Not saying there's going to be a home run in any capacity. He still has to prove himself. But can he be given an opportunity to do that before people put these perceptions on him already?
Yeah, and I get it. It's just so frustrating when the counter argument is just, well, we don't know anything about him. It's all, like you said, the ambiguity of it. And you said that, you know, there are guys in other front offices that you look at and they would be promoted if needed and if opportunity arose. How many of those people on their resume, all they have is some sort of involvement in one good draft? Literally, that if you are looking at Brian Gregory's front office resume, it is had an unknown level of involvement in drafting Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. Now, I saw yesterday people saying that he wasn't in the video of the draft. And at first, I didn't think so because his hair had grown out, and I thought that was somebody else. Went back and looked today. He was in the war room. He was in the draft room when those guys were drafted. I'm sure he was somewhat involved. And since he has been hired, he now has earned not the benefit of the doubt, but a chance to prove it. But I do not believe that he earned a chance to be the general manager of one of the 30 NBA teams. And again, that is separate from the fact that this is what Matt Ishbia thinks is right. Obviously, and Espo and I were going back and forth about this pretty spiritedly before the show today, where Matt Ishbia has won the press conference before. Yeah. You know, he's done the things that looks right to everybody else. Even Psycho Blue said it, where he was like, everybody was in on all the other moves and they failed. Everybody's out on this move. It's bound to work, right? Like, I understand that, right? But this makes no sense except for this is what Matt Ishbia's gut is telling him. And I hope that his gut is right, and I am not per se out on Matt Ishbia's gut entirely. But I'm a lot less confident than I was 365 days ago, than I was two years ago. And whether that's on him or on the people that he put in charge of decision-making, we'll never know for sure. But if this doesn't work out specifically, in this moment, that could doom your franchise to the point where Devin Booker might be gone if you really ruin this over the next couple of years if Brian Gregory doesn't hit, right? You might not be a destination like we're talking about for stars like Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, at the time, Bradley Beal. You might not be able to get these veteran free agents if they don't feel like the franchise is being run in a way that they can trust. And Espo in the chat says James Jones had 1 year of front office experience when he took over. Rob Pelinka was brought up earlier, wasn't a GM before he was made a GM. I think those are all great points. I think Brian Gregory could be good, but this is just such a big risk to take. And the only positives that I'm hearing is that he could be good because we don't know anything about him. And that's the problem. Yeah.
I mean, there's no bigger prove it job on the GM level in the league right now than this one. Because he is an unknown commodity, and it would have been a lot more reassuring if it had been, you know, someone with a proven track record like a Bob Myers, or if it had been someone like Steven, you've talked about Nazir Muhammad quite a bit, someone that has been getting a lot of that front office experience and could be, the equivalent of these assistant coaches that we talk about in the league who they're next up. They're going to get a job somewhere and get a chance to prove themselves. It would have been nice to target someone like that and feel a lot better about more of a sure, proven thing heading into the offseason. So I'm not going to try and dissuade anyone from being worried about it because it is worrisome. We just genuinely have no idea the level of input that he's had over these last 2 years. We don't know what the strategy is going to look like heading into the offseason. I'm looking forward to his intro press conference whenever it does come. We don't know when that's going to be yet. But I would like to pick his brain about, how do you feel about coming into this job where everyone is pretty skeptical of your level of experience about what you're going to implement moving forward. What are you going to implement moving forward? Because to this point, we just genuinely have no idea. And this is a very critical offseason, a critical juncture with Devin Booker, with where the franchise is right now, to take that kind of gamble. So it is concerning. I'm not going to beat around the bush and lie to you and say that it's not. But I genuinely can't judge it any further than that until the man starts making moves, because how he handles a potential Kevin Durant trade, which is probably going to be first up on the docket after hiring a head coach, that's going to tell us a lot.
Where my mind went after some of the things that you mentioned as well, Eric, just thought about copying and pasting the ways in which you're speaking about Brian Gregory to head coaches that have gotten opportunities that they may not have quote unquote earned because they had quite literally never held said positions in an assistant role or really in any other role in the professional realm prior to the opportunities that they got. 3 coaches over the last decade and 3 very different levels of success that they saw with the teams that they had opportunities with. Steve Nash with the Brooklyn Nets, Steve Kerr with the Golden State Warriors, JJ Redick with the Los Angeles Lakers. Again, 3 varying levels of success seen. All 3 of those coaches came in with the cachet. Yes, that preceded them, but they never had coaching experience. One was held against him in Steve Nash, and obviously his tenure with the Brooklyn Nets was extremely short. JJ Redick in his first season far exceeded expectations. People didn't have the Lakers making the playoffs, yet alone to play in preseason records and things like that, projections. They finished with a top 6 seed, have home court advantage in the first round, and obviously they lose in the first round, but there are a lot of context within that. And the last one, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr goes into a situation where there are expectations from a team that had made the playoffs multiple seasons prior to him, turns that into a dynasty.
Yeah.
Just saying, you have to give people opportunities to prove themselves, even if there is ambiguity with it. I think those are the most clear-cut examples in recent memory that we can fall back on.
And I'm more than prepared to give him an opportunity. And what we're going to do in a second here is we put out a post at PHNX_Suns on Twitter asking what would he have to do to earn your faith back. But real quick to touch on what you just said, because I think that's fascinating. And again, in all of this and my panic and my angst and my worry about it, I think there's a chance that he's good at his job. The Steve Kerr, the JJ Redick, right? But I think Steve Nash might be the most apt comparison, because think about where that franchise was when Steve Nash became head coach. It was, all right, you've got the most important team full of superstars that we've ever had. There's a lot on your plate. And it's such a tricky situation that you're going to have to thread the needle perfectly to get something out of this, to get to where our high expectations are. And I think Steve Nash, if he goes to a different position, might have been set up better to succeed. I think Brian Gregory, if he was in a different position as GM, it would be a lot more calming to have this guy take on a first-time role with less experience. It's the combination of what's on the line, what you have to work with, and the experience of who you have navigating it. But it could happen. But what needs to happen? We're going to read your responses and give our own right after our first break.
Real quick, though.
Oh, let's go.
Just real quick. And I hate to play devil's advocate, but if Kevin Durant's foot was a half size smaller, the light that we're looking at Steve Nash in terms of losing in the conference finals, even with an injured team, to making the NBA finals with a very injured team, that's the margin that we're speaking to.
And Brian Gregory messes up one signing, one trade, one thing, and this whole franchise could be in a different spot,
what if that one thing hits, though, too?
That's the gamble.
That's where we at.
That's the risk. That's the high risk, high reward. But what could the reward be that would make the risk worth it?
Brian says the Suns win the chip is the response. That's possible.
Could be. Talk about it after this break. Whatever the moment, like a GM being hired and it catches you off guard, it's never ordinary. Over at Bet365, of course, Bet365, I can talk about the 90 million users they have worldwide, how they live stream almost 800,000 live events each year, the early payout offers for the NBA or the NHL, but really what you care about is bang for your buck. And right now, for people who have not used Bet365 yet, if you sign up and open an account, you can get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5, get 150 in bonus bets. If your bet wins or loses, bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Plus, if you're rebuilding your house, choose the safe choice. Of course, that is Empire today. Not only will you get $350 off when you use discount code PHNX at empiretoday.com/PHNX, but you're also going to be having people install your flooring, talk to you about what flooring fits with you, that actually care about flooring. It's not like those big box stores that you walk in, you get lost, you kind of pick out what you think would work, but maybe the other one, but you'll just go with your gut feeling like Mike Budenholzer, and then they say, okay, you can either install this yourself or you can wait 6 months and we can have a team come out and install it for you. A team that doesn't really know what they're doing. Not with Empire Today. Empire Today, you can schedule a free in-home estimate today. You can have next day installation, and of course, you can choose the right flooring for you, not just your house size, but the way that your flooring is laid out, the way that your furniture looks, the paint on your walls. Empire Today considers it all. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 off discount when using promo code PHNX. Use discount code PHNX for $350 off. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHNX for full details. I also want to remind everybody that we have a watch party, and by we, I mean PHNX Diamondbacks has a watch party over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass in just 2 days. This Sunday, it's those gross Philadelphia Phillies taking on the D-backs. Join Derek and all the PHNX Diamondbacks faithful on May 4th at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. RSVPing is free. Just let us know that we're coming and Derek's walking over here. You want to give like an elevator pitch on why they should come watch a D-backs game with you?
Well, not only are the Arizona Diamondbacks incredible and a winning franchise, that's no shot to you guys here, but also
It felt like
Jesse's going to join me on the show after the game. So if you want to come see me, Damon, do the show, and then Jesse join us via satellite or whatever the hell you call it these days. That's worth it. Also, the food's good.
I have a question for you. Did Mike Hazen have any front office experience when he was hired?
Yes, absolutely.
How much?
A lot of it. That's the way that you do things, right?
Get out of here. Get out of here.
I thought you hire guys with experience.
Thanks, Derek.
Get out of here.
Thanks, Derek.
Go away.
Before we get to the responses to our tweets, I know that we were talking about that Steve Nash thing. Jared didn't get a chance to talk. Is there anything from our first segment conversation that we want to put a bow on?
No, I think you guys covered it well. I think we've talked about Nash plenty, and I think you guys hit the nail on the head there.
All right. Well, we have about 15-ish responses from you. We did not grab all of them. Some of them are not safe for this program. But I put out a post on PHNX Suns yesterday, honestly out of pure curiosity of what Brian Gregory would have to do. I emphasized on this summer, some of the answers go beyond that, to earn your faith back as a Phoenix Suns general manager. Let's start with Omar Xios. Omar says, trade Beal ASAP and give the Book and KD experiment one last shot with nice pieces around them. Now, we'll get to more comments in a second, but I think what was interesting from this one is it was one of the few that asked to keep KD to retain faith in this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a small contingent of Suns fans that are hoping that you can build around Book and KD if you can just find a way to offload Beal's contract. We've gone through a lot of Bradley Beal trade scenarios. We've gone through a lot of KD trade scenarios. The Beal ones just don't feel very likely. It doesn't feel like they're going to be able to find a team that they can dump Beal to without either taking back bad contracts or having to give up a first round pick or two. So I get it. I still think if you can, like, you should start by trying to trade Beal and then go from there. But if you can, if that's unrealistic, you kind of just have to face this corner that you've backed yourself into. And at that point, trading Kevin Durant and getting assets in return to kind of retool is the way to go. If you can trade Beal, then we're going to be looking at the Brian Gregory hire a lot differently.
Results-based.
If he starts off his tenure with a miracle, then that's a different story. But I just don't think it's likely.
What an amazing tone setter that would be. To say I'm standing on business and going out and making the somewhat seemingly impossible possible.
Yeah. 100%.
That's the scenario that I've hoped for from them. As we've spoken to the last 2 weeks, we don't know how realistic that is, considering how low Bradley Beal's stock is and the lack of options there are in terms of teams that he would consider, but that will also like to have him with their team on his current contract.
Yeah,
that's where things get really sticky. So there's a lot in limbo there. But again, if you can retool around Booker with Durant, that's the best possible outcome in terms of if you're still planning to make the playoffs next season.
Something we haven't talked about, which I find fascinating, that even I think off of the show, this hasn't come up, at least with me and you guys. What would the players think about this move? Obviously, trying to get inside players' heads is impossible. But if you are trying to convince Kevin Durant to come back, Brian Gregory, is that a selling point? Is that a bad one for Devin Booker, who's obviously committed to this franchise for the long term? Reports about him being offered and going to be signing an extension this summer have surfaced over the last couple of weeks. From a player's perspective, like, can this be something that you look at and be like, all right, like, I trust this because how much do you know about this guy,
I mean, based on what we've heard, he has been around the scenes for the last 2 years, so they probably know a lot more about him than we do at this point. I genuinely think players look at head coaches a lot more than they look at the GM when they're weighing potential options or whether they're thinking about wanting to come back. I don't think they care as much. Like, obviously, if you have a GM who's personable, a former player, someone you can relate to better, that helps with recruitment pitches. But pretty much everyone on this team outside of Booker and the rookies feels like they know that they could be gone this summer. So I don't think they're looking at the Brian Gregory hire and be like, oh man, yes, now I'm coming back. Or, oh, I don't know if I want to come back. So yeah.
I think it's maybe more, what does Devin Booker think about this than just players?
That's a fair question.
In general. But what about what DK thinks? DK says, show some guts revamping this roster. Make some unpopular decisions, which is ironic considering that he is the unpopular decision in revamping the roster. But Steven, going against the grain, something to earn the trust back of some fans, is that surprising to you?
No, it's not. I would love for DK to have spoken more in a specific fashion rather than generally. Like, what's on your mind? What are you thinking is an unpopular? What are you thinking is an unpopular decision to be made? Like, what fits that criteria for you in particular? Since we're using their tweet as the example that we're speaking off of.
I mean, I think an unpopular decision would maybe revolve around something with Bradley Beal, or an unpopular decision is, I don't even know. It would be signing for or trading for players that aren't universally beloved in the NBA. That's kind of what it feels like to me. But yeah, Thon says, make a popular decision for F's sake for once. I think they did.
They did. That's the thing, though. The Kevin Durant, well, it wasn't unanimously popular. It was pretty split in terms of loving it because it's Kevin Durant and hating it because they had to give up the Twins and picks. It should have been unanimous. But I'm guessing that's what the question was maybe speaking to is popular decision means like trading for stars and going all in, and we can praise this aggressive owner. Maybe unpopular is like what you were saying, going for, this new identity they're trying to carve out, defensive-minded, gritty, less talented, less superstar caliber players that maybe fit better. Like we see a lot of the teams around the league. Like most teams around the league, they don't have 3-star caliber players. They have 1 or 2, and then the rest are two-way players that fit them really well. So I'd agree with that, but I do also laugh at the phrasing in terms of make an unpopular decision, because right now they all feel pretty unpopular.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people were high on the Suns at the beginning of the year. That's because they made the popular decisions and what we felt like were the right ones, and they weren't. But this is what Nick wants to see from Brian Gregory. And there's a little bit more detail in this for you, Steven. Small, subtle changes that change the structure and the execution of the team. I don't necessarily need to see a chip next season, but an upward trend. I want to see chemistry. I want to see team spirit, and I want to see fundamentals firmly in place.
That all sounds great. It sounds like they're in desire of role players that know how to play to their specific roles to a T, being elite and time on task in terms of being given a task or a role for a team and being able to, regardless of what's going on around them, execute to that. But the other part of that is also being able to do things that might not always be in the description for your role. So let's take Grayson Allen, for example. Grayson Allen, we know you're a great three-point shooter. That's going to certainly be part of your role with this team. Can you also be one of the best guard screen setters in the league? Can you find ways on the margins to hit for this team like we saw with him this season, showing rim protection in scenarios what we did not expect for him to do that, and doing that, honestly, more consistently than we had seen him doing any season prior to this season? Like little things like that. If you can take that template and then copy and paste it to 12 or 13 other players on the roster to go around Devin Booker and potentially Durant, now you're talking about a team that has the makings of one that can translate well to a postseason play or more meaningful basketball, at least.
This is one of the biggest things for me that I want to feel coming out of the offseason, especially coming after a season where how many times did we talk about it doesn't feel like they're connected. It doesn't feel like they care at times, that they're putting in the requisite level of effort. Is I want to see that direction. I want to see the things that Matt Ishbia was talking about at his exit interviews in terms of you're going to feel the difference in the way that our team competes, in the way that they're trying to get better every day, the way that they're hungry again. So that needs to start in the offseason and acquiring the right personnel, the right personalities that can come in and be a part of that. Because we saw it this season. It never felt like that. I need to see a clear direction. That starts with the general manager and the types of players that they're bringing in, the types of moves that they're bringing in. I need to be able to look at this offseason and say, okay, they got younger. They got more defensive minded. They got more athletes. They got more something. So it doesn't feel like, well, they had to trade KD and then they had to do something with Beal. And so now they're kind of trying to put the pieces back together. I would like to see it all streamlined into one common goal or purpose.
Lonnie with a $4.99 super chat says, if BG can pull off getting Giannis without trading Book and KD, I'll never doubt this decision ever again.
I don't think they will be able to, Lonnie. But
I'll never doubt him either, though, if that happens. If that's what
I don't
it
think
takes.
anyone could at that point.
So tell me what's more unrealistic.
He
then.
immediately enters the Sam Presti, Brad Stevens
Hall of Fame.
He's executive of the year for that one move alone.
Well, this kind of falls into what we had Cactus Jack respond to our tweet about what would it take for Brian Gregory to earn your faith this summer. He says he would need to trade Bradley Beal for Alperen Şengün. And this has 14 likes. So people agree with this. What's more unrealistic? Beal for Şengün or getting Giannis without trading Book or KD?
Yes.
Yes.
But neither one's happening.
I know that that's probably being said in jest, but that just kind of paints a picture of but there's a lot of people who are not giving you your faith back no matter what happens this offseason.
Yeah.
Even if you have a good offseason, I don't think people are going to be like, yeah, I'm back in. Woo.
I disagree because I think by that point, if he starts making moves in his first summer as GM, and people are like, okay, the new guy that we, again, don't know a lot about in terms of how he's going to do the job, is actually making moves that I like. I'm back on board. I don't think this team, no matter what he does this summer with KD, with Beal, with the other pieces, I don't think this summer the expectations heading into next season are going to be anywhere near as high as they were last season. And I think that alone is going to be enough to get some people to buy in if you give them a clear direction, if you give them a clear plan moving forward. Because last year, the plan was for them to contend, and they fell so far short that it was impossible to feel anything but negativity. If you give people reset expectations of, we're not going to contend for a title this year, but we are going to be back on a path that could put Devin Booker there within the next couple of years, then I think most people will be okay with taking a slight step back if it means you have a chance to move forward and get back to that point in the near future. So that's why I want to see a clear vision executed. I want to see a clear direction in terms of the moves you're making and the people you're bringing in. I want to see that there is a path towards an upward trajectory again, instead of like, well, we traded Kevin Durant and now we got rid of Beal and now we're just going to cobble it back together again.
Yeah, it's been all about clarity. I'll continue to sing those praises until we start to see that in some capacity and we see it sustained.
Mm-hmm.
Thon says, honestly, I'm not going to believe in this team until after the All-Star break, and I doubt they make it that far. Well, hopefully, I mean, they make it that far.
They do have to play the game still, even if they're bad.
Yeah, either it's a threat or it's a blessing. But what I was kind of saying before, I don't know if there's anything you can do this summer to fully earn faith back. I think there's things you could do this summer to get people's attention or to get their hope up.
Yes.
But to have faith that it's going to be okay and that you were the right move, like we say, where we need to give him time, I think we also need to see how it plays out. That's what Joe said as well in our response to our tweet, said, I will reserve judgment until the end of next year. I think you could pull off a Beal deal and people can be excited. You could pull off a KD deal and people go, oh, you know what? That's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
If this next season, those moves don't end up working out the way they were expected to in the summer, nobody's going to give a flying F about what Brian Gregory did this summer. It's all about the results, which is a really tough situation for him to be in, that it's more about results over process. But even though you're not competing, it's about results on how you get back to the track of competing. We have another super chat that I'd like to read here real quick from Dr. Batman, $4.99. Thank you so much, Dr. Batman. Says, feels like Ishbia is running the Suns like Trump is currently running the economy. Can he just sign an executive order and make Beal a Laker? Thank you for the super chat, Dr. Batman.
You said more than enough. Don't even need a response.
Let's go to what Topher had to say in response. Topher always interacting with our stuff on socials. We see you, Topher. We appreciate you, Topher. Says, absolutely nail a KD trade and then follow up by adding 2 great prospects from the draft to further build out our core. Really, any of Lendenborg, Bryant, Thiero, Condon, and a really solid center. Any of Reynaud, Kalkbrenner, and Zasarski. So this is the first mention that we have of nailing the draft, which I do think might be, as much as the flashy stuff that we focus on or the KD and the Beal stuff, might be the way that he makes his biggest impact this summer.
Yeah, I mean, the draft is going to be crucial. Like for me, the order of operations here is hire a head coach, probably negotiate a Kevin Durant trade because you probably want that set in stone or at least an outline of what that's going to look like before the draft if you can. That we've talked about how that could be contingent on Giannis. And then it's the draft for me. I do think, especially if you're going to be touting Brian Gregory as, you know, he played a role in us drafting Ryan Dunn and also Iguodala, there's a lot of pressure on the picks that you have this year to put them to good use. And that's assuming you don't, you know, try to package or trade up or trade down or whatever they wind up deciding to do. So I do think the draft is critical. It's probably, you know, 3rd or 4th on my list of top priorities for him this offseason. But moving forward, there is a lot of pressure on that because we know the Suns are going to be picking 29th this year. They're probably going to be picking near the end of the first round most years with the picks that they're going to be getting back and all the pick swap rights that other teams have on their picks. So this is a critical first step to, okay, you hired this guy because of the draft regimen and the player personnel. Here's your first chance to prove it with a good pick.
I think building through the draft is going to be important for them. I think that they've acknowledged it as such, but also I could see to bring back the quotes from Matt Ishbia and James Jones in 2030, 2032, 2035. Like, those years will matter, but they'll matter more when those years get here because they're looking to contend and at least be as close to doing that in the now as possible.
Yeah.
So a draft pick or two rather, could certainly factor into that, but it's not going to be what they're looking to be. Okay, we got this, and this is what's definitely going to get us over this hump from retool to playoff team to contending the way that they want to.
Yeah, I think that, well, it might not fall in number 1 of the hierarchy. I think it does fall in number 1 of what we can actually expect from this guy that we know about him, which is why if you don't walk away from the draft feeling, you know, confident, like we felt last year after the draft. We loved the Ryan Dunn pick and the Oso Iguodala pick. Nobody thought it would be as good and as necessary as it was this year, but nobody walked away from that draft going, oh, I don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
So if you can walk away from this draft not feeling that way. I think that's extremely important just for fan morale, because the only selling point you have on this guy is last year's draft. And if you leave this year's draft with fans not feeling a similar way, despite what the outcome might be, it's going to be a tough blow to morale.
It will. And I get your point. But again, I think it's similar to kind of what we're talking about, is that I think a fan base, especially when they have enough time to accept what has happened in terms of this hire, in terms of a player that you pick. How many times have all-time greats with their franchises been booed by the fan base that drafted them on draft night and look like absolute idiots after the fact? Like, it happens a lot. So I don't care as much about what the feeling is on draft night. Of course, we're going to have our initial reactions. Everyone's going to have their thoughts on the pick. But those types of things are not going to play out until over years. Like, we felt great about the Josh Jackson pick back in the day, and now we're looking back on all the misfires of draft picks next to Devin Booker that could have changed the trajectory of the franchise. They could have potentially won a title in 2021 if they had just drafted better in that section where they missed and missed and missed. Dragan Bender, Marquise Chris, Alex Len, all of these different misses. Like, the draft picks are going to take a lot of time for me to know how to truly feel about them. The Kevin Durant stuff, the Bradley Beal stuff, that's going to be pretty immediate.
I feel you. It's all, even with those trades, how you feel in the immediate versus what you actually get from it. It's all about, hey, well, this guy's going to get a couple years, right? This guy's not going to not be GM next year. The last two got 5 years, I believe. So maybe the GMs are on a 5-year plan. We have a couple more responses from you. We also are going to do a quick touch on some playoff basketball and then end this week right with a snake draft talking about gorillas fighting. And we're going to do it all after our final break. Huge announcement from Sanderson Ford. Big news. They just announced from America for America employee pricing. Now, you pay the same price that the owner pays. So Sanderson Ford on the full lineup of new Fords, and no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense, and most importantly, no added markups. And on top of employee pricing, get additional Ford incentives on over 1,000 vehicles during the Sanderson Ford Platinum 70th anniversary sale. That's right, 70th anniversary sale. Choose Sanderson Ford not only because they have an inventory and they're celebrating 70 years of treating you right, but also because now is the best time to buy a new Ford from Sanderson Ford with From America for America employee pricing. So once again, in celebration of their 70th anniversary, stop in and get a pair of tickets to an Arizona Diamondbacks game just for stopping by. No test drive even required. That excludes a 2025 Expedition, Super Duty, Raptor Family Mustang, and Bronco specialty vehicles. One pair of tickets per household with valid driver's license to July 6th game versus Kansas City Royals, while supply of 200 tickets last. So get in over to Sanderson Ford quickly, and if you are trying to extend your outdoor living space for a long time, choose All Pro Shade Concepts. Not only trusted by friends and family 20 years ago when they started making window shades by hand, but they've grown to be #1 by Ranking Arizona for patio shades in 2024, an A+ Better Business Bureau ranking, and over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. But what do? Well, they'll install a motorized patio awning.
There you go.
No speakers involved, but they do help block out the sun, keep your patio cooler, up to 20 degrees cooler in shade in the summer, which is a massive difference. Plus, you can put in LED lighting, and if you're worried about the winter, it actually helps keep warm air in during the winter. So no matter what, you are getting more out of your investment, which is your home. Call 623-204-1476 or visit allproshadeconcepts.com right now to schedule your free estimate. Shout out BS, Corey, Thon, Lonnie, Detrick, Dr. Batman, still in the chat. Wow Factor, thank you all so much. Hit that like button. We are 40 subscribers away. Just 40 subscribers away.
Wow.
From 40,000 subscribers. So please hit that subscribe button. Stick around here at PHNX Suns and everything else going on here at PHNX Sports. Let's get to a comment from Nighthound. Thank you, Nighthound, for responding to our tweet. Says, maybe making small, smart moves, since that goes against Ishbia's usual style of big moves that make no sense to anyone with a brain. Anything else, though, getting him labeled as a yes man, in parentheses rightfully, since it's pretty much what everyone was thinking anyway. So he wants to earn trust by feeling like the moves that are made from Brian Gregory are different than maybe the moves this franchise would have made over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think there was an emphasis on that at exit interviews when Ishbia talked about maybe we don't go after the more talented players. Maybe they've learned their lesson in that regard of going all in on superstar talent and looking for better fits for what they want to be there, what they want their identity to be. So hopefully we do see some, well, obviously Kevin Durant trade, that's a big move. It has to happen probably. But outside of that, in terms of the players that you're getting back, it probably won't be as flashy or as glamorous as we're used to seeing from 2022, from 2023. And I think that is a good thing considering where you're at right now.
Yeah, I think Matt made sure to be to emphasize that he isn't necessarily only looking at home run moves, but acknowledge that they have taken some swings and may not have necessarily gotten the triple that they were hoping for or a double. And also acknowledge that maybe they could benefit going forward from tweaking that approach and strategy to acknowledging that singles, if they're coming in succession with one another, ultimately lead to runs. And I think that tweaking of approach, even if it's not necessarily in the ways that people might want to see it, if they can just hit on those and ultimately see the results that they desire to come from them, they're putting themselves in position to where, okay, now we've collected data on when we do make big swings, what worked for us, what didn't work for us. We went the small ball route. We're doing the little things to get to a big thing. Now can we combine both of those things over time? Hopefully it only takes one season and put together something that's contending again.
New nickname, Stevie Baseball?
I mean, baseball was my very first love.
I know.
So
you were a pitcher, right?
I did everything, honestly.
Of course,
but center field, it was center field and
coached
shortstop.
the team. You were like the Matt Ishbia of your little league team.
It was like Deion Sanders.
Oh,
there you go.
Okay. You know where to find me.
Steal every base.
We have one more tweet that we'll show you in a second, but I actually want to read Cyrus's comment first. First of all, Cyrus said that didn't realize that he wasn't subbed. You know, there are some of you that are here every day that get the feeds delivered into your, or get the shows delivered into your feed that comes up all the time. You just assume that you're subscribed because you watch all the time. Take a second to check and help support us. That would be great. However, Cyrus also went on and said, earn trust. I want to hear his vision with details and not this general same speech that we hear. I want details on what he will do to improve the culture and where his vision is for how we play. I do think that more so than almost any other hire that I've seen since I've been covering and really watching the Phoenix Suns, this press conference might be the one that people read into the most when he eventually does speak.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would like to hear specifics because we did ask Ishbia because he kept talking about, you know, setting an identity, setting the tone for the rest of the organization. What does that mean? How? Like, what is that identity going to look like? I would like to hear from the GM now too, who is going to be getting into the more granular details of what that looks like from a roster move standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, from the attributes you're targeting in the draft standpoint. I would like more insight into, okay, you guys wanted to establish an identity. You've obviously been here the last 2 years. You're a big part of establishing this identity that you keep talking about. What is it? And how do you enact it? And how on a day-to-day basis, logistically, do you carry that out? Because all of these, we talk about all these organizations that have culture. We talk about heat culture, all these different things. None of it would mean anything without just winning basketball games. None of it means anything until you win a title. It's good. It's good to have principles that you abide by, but nobody on the outside cares about any of that crap until you win a title. And then once you do, it's, your coda. It's everything that you live by. It's the reason that you got there. So I do think it's important to acknowledge the fact that they could talk about these things all day long, but until they live those things and those things translate into something that the fans can hold in their hands, it's not going to matter to anyone.
Yeah, it continues to be proof of concept. And that's what I've been speaking to, hoping to see from a head coach in particular, whether it be someone that's new to it, but the role that they were in preceding them and the successes that came from that suggest that they might be good being a head coach in and of themselves. Like little things like that. People just want to see some clarity.
Yeah, I agree. I think he can't reveal his whole hand like Oren says. He can't say his whole game plan because then you're just giving that away. So he's going to, once again, have to find a way to walk a tightrope to comfort people, but not give away too much. One final one from Dat Boy Briss. Thank you, Dat Boy Briss. Says, fix this dysfunctional environment. This team was not playing as a team all season. Some flashes here and there, but overall, this team has so many issues. It's going to take a while for this man to earn anyone's trust. We need to see results from the team first before we have that talk. And I think that's just a good place to end it, because it does kind of feel like we're running on a hamster wheel, right? Where it's hypothetical, but it's all about results. Hypothetical, but it's all about results. And I'm sure we'll continue to revisit this throughout the summer, especially when some deals are made. But at the end of the day, on May 2nd of next year, we will have a much better idea of who Brian Gregory is than May 2nd of 2025.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Dr. Batman with another super chat says, if BG hits, that's the kind of stuff that Disney movies starring Kevin Costner are made of. I want to believe, damn it.
Don't blame you, Dr. Batman.
I want to believe too. And maybe it does work out, and maybe we are a Disney movie. Who knows?
Maybe.
Real quick, we don't have time to do a full playoff breakdown, but Steven, you and I on Monday are going to do a Die Hard exclusive playoff show. First round recap, second round, getting ready for that. So if you want to hear more in-depth playoff basketball talk, become a Die Hard today. Go phnx.com/join. But there is one game tonight. It's Rockets and it's Warriors. Game 6 back. I was going to say in Oakland, but it's not in Oakland anymore. Back at the Chase Center. Golden State is hosting. Do the Rockets extend to another Game 7 in round 1, joining the Clippers and the Nuggets? What do we feel about tonight?
I don't think so. I'm not completely ruling it out, because if the Rockets had just made free throws in this series, you could argue that it would be over, or that they would have a 3-2 lead instead. But I do think that's part of what the concerns were with this team in terms of youth, in terms of half-court offensive execution. Those are things that we've seen come up in the series. I think the Warriors maybe were feeling a little too good heading into Game 5, and I think going back home at Game 6, they have a better chance of closing this out. Definitely wouldn't mind a Game 7, though.
I'm curious, what is the status of Steph Curry with that thumb?
Yes.
Because if the greatest shooter in the world is reduced to, no offense to Rajon Rondo, but being someone that sets up the offense and can only have a minimal impact in terms of scoring, that shifts the entire context of the Warriors' offense. And for Houston, a team that wins and usually wins loudly on the margins, offensive rebounds, deflections, steals, those type of things, take on much more impact if Steph Curry's not going out and putting up 25 to 50 points in the game.
They're going to give him what they gave Ja.
Who's going to make up for those points on the Warriors?
Well, yeah, Butler's injured too.
The positive for them is that they are at home, and someone like Brandon Podziemski can go off at any given moment. Suns fans have seen that firsthand. Someone like Buddy Hield could have a 6 3-point game, one of the best 3-point shooters of all time. That's the beauty of having a closeout game at home. I don't know if they do it, though, because Steph is just such an engine, and it feels like they're, even with Jimmy, is super reliant on him. If they can't get stops and he's also not himself.
So it's just weird. Like when I said like the Jalen Green game and Houston wins game 2, like that was just like a gut feeling. Shout out to Mike Budenholzer. I do drink kombucha though, so it's better. But I think even with Steph's thumb, I think we get a classic Steph performance tonight. I think Steph scores 30. I'll have some Bet365 bets out on social later today. But I think Houston wins this game, and I think they win even with Steph scoring 30. I think this is going to be one of those games where everybody's going to write Houston off early. Steph's going to be hot, and they just are not going to give up. They're going to grit and grind it, word to the actual Memphis Grizzlies, not whatever the hell we saw this year. And I think Houston forces a Game 7. I think Golden State wins in 7 on the road once Houston gets all of their hopes up and they're playing a home game. But I'm going to pick Houston to win this one. I think this goes to Game 7. I think Steph does score offensively. I just don't think that he gets enough from everybody else, even though they're at home. And Butler being injured too, even though he played well in the last game, is a big part of it. But
I did say Rockets in 7, so I'm sticking with that.
You're sticking with it? What did you say?
I think I said Warriors in 7. I remember right. So I'm saying Warriors in 6 right now.
Leo says, thoughts on Greg Popovich retiring from coaching? I hated you so much that I ended up loving you.
Crazy. End of an era. I hope that he is okay and that he's happy. Because he I know that as Suns fans, you have every right to be inclined to hate Pop, to hate the Spurs as a coach, as whatever, an organization. But as a human being, Greg Popovich is a great human being. He is arguably the greatest NBA coach of all time. And it's a weird end of an era, to be honest with you. It was kind of surreal to get that notification this morning.
The living definition of a leader. Best way to engage a leader is if that person is able to put other people in positions to continue on. And needless to say, his coaching tree has more branches than anyone else's. And I think that extends past just coaches. It goes to front office execs. It goes to college coaches. Obviously on the W side with Becky Hammond. His tree is impeccable, and I think it speaks directly to who he is and top tier human being on top of all of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest respect that I could say for him as a coach is that I feared him so much that I hated him. Right? I mean, hate can be born in sports from respect, and that's what it was with Greg Popovich. And as a younger Suns fan, it's more so just hate. And as you get older and you hear more from him, and the Suns and the Spurs, they cross paths less often and in less serious situations, you do start to appreciate the guy that he is and the things that he stood up for, the things that he spoke about, being a voice beyond just basketball for important things in this world. And also just, I mean, who has done it for that long over a game that's changed so much? There's probably single hand number of coaches across all sports that have done what Greg Popovich has done on the level that he's done it. And he could have continued to do it if his health allowed him to, but I hope that this decision helps him live a more fulfilled and healthy life. And as obsessed as he is with basketball, I think we've learned that he's also a very well-rounded human. So I'm hoping that he finds some balance in that. We wish him the best, and I hate you for what you did to my team.
He's done on the professional level what a lot of the all-time great college coaches have done. And that's be able to withstand time by evolving your approach and process to match with players that are coming through your system at any given moment. Go from the late 90s all the way to 2024.
Crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. We ready to get silly?
Yes.
We ready to get fun?
Let's do it.
It is a Friday fun day. And in case you missed it, AKA you haven't been on the internet, the 100 people versus a gorilla debate has become rampant
all-encompassing
on the internet. So what we are going to do today to end our week is draft current NBA players that if we had to pick would be in our 100 people to fight the gorilla.
Okay.
Before we get into specifics, does anybody have like a game plan? Like, are you going for brute strength, smarts? Because I think you need a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I have a very extensive big board here.
You do come with a lot of research.
With about 30 names on it. I don't need that many, but I am prepared. I'm flexible in how I could tailor this. I do have a lot of tall, big brute strength types.
Yeah.
But I am going to throw a couple of unconventional picks out there.
Okay.
So just be prepared.
All right. Steven, any strategy?
I'm here. No, I am. Of course.
Yes.
That's what we do. If it's competition, man, you already know what type of time I'm on.
Yeah, I think it's going to get competitive. Let's hide the chat here so that we don't get any ideas from them.
Okay.
And before we get in there, I want to remind everybody who is watching on TV that the party always continues over at gophnx.com. What's better than a little snake draft action in overtime, Gerald? Since you won our last draft, you got your pick of where you would pick. You took the number 1 slot. Steven, since you came in second, you took the 3 slot. I'm sitting at number 2. So, Gerald, with the number 1 pick in today's draft, who are you selecting?
There are 2 players that were both deserving of this pick. I'm thinking it's a draft where you're going to look at those top 2 guys as, wow, those were both number 1 caliber picks. I got to go with Isaiah Stewart off the top.
Yeah.
You need a big guy. You need a crazy guy. You need someone that is going to chase LeBron James halfway down the court and feel the exact same way about this fictional gorilla. So I am going with Isaiah Stewart as my number 1 pick, bringing the Bad Boys Pistons regime back. Half the time it feels like he's ready to fight more than he is ready to play basketball anyway.
Yeah.
So he's perfect.
This one's easy for me. Give me Bradley Beal. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I think that this other guy would be in your top 2. Maybe I'm wrong. I actually had a couple people I would consider for the number 1 overall pick. I would have gone with Beef Stew. I think whoever I pass up on, I don't imagine to get on the back end, but maybe give me Steven Adams.
That was my number 2.
Yeah, give me Steven Adams. I'm feeling pretty good about that one.
It's a great pick.
Good pick. It makes sense. In the unconventional, maybe back of the mind approach, I'm gonna take the person that is the best fighter, best actual fighter.
Yeah, it's a good one.
He was number 3.
Yeah, he was number 3 for me too.
Give me James Johnson.
Yep, James Johnson.
OG. Anytime there's any type of smoke, just pick up on the camera and find him. He's somewhere lurking around just to make sure that all of the woofing, all of the talking that's going on doesn't go past that. And if it is getting to that point and someone peeks and sees him, you can see the bass in their voice go from octaves that you can't even measure to a whole lot more respectable, almost library-like. So give me the board of correction, James Johnson.
That would have been my pick at your spot as well. But now you got another one. So who's the second member of your team?
Yeah, this is where it gets tough. You got to go find someone that's willing to step outside of their body, even if it's not their typical behavior.
Okay,
I'll go with Dylan Brooks.
Oh wow, okay. We got the antagonist
on my board for sure. If you're trying to annoy the gorilla, great
trying
pick.
To bait him into fighting you back.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have gone there with that pick though.
Okay.
I think.
I have a strategy in place though.
I
can talk through
I
it.
believe.
We can talk through it
I believe.
You got it.
I think I'm going to be able to get a pure crazy guy closer to the end. Although I do think the 2 guys that I'm going to end up with in my first 2 picks are a certain level of crazy. Give me another big ogre. Give me Nikola Jokic, who we've seen him get physical. We've seen him literally end somebody's career. We've seen him break faces, and also. There are going to be 95 other people, and if Nikola Jokic is fighting, his brothers are going to be there with him.
Joker ain't no fighter, though, man. Joker ain't throwing no hands, man.
If he has to, give me the 7 foot, 300-something pound guy who's skilled and smart.
I think so. I had him on my list. I didn't have him that high, but I did have him on my list just because he's one of the most immovable players in the NBA. So just in terms of stature,
that's my muscle, and he's got great conditioning too.
Yeah, for a guy his size, yes, he does. And well, I can't even say that. He's way better shape than I am. Okay, so it's coming to me for back-to-back picks now.
Yep.
Oh boy, this is where things get interesting. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit more crazy to my crazy. I started off with Isaiah Stewart. I'm gonna throw Draymond Green.
Your guys are gonna be fighting each other instead of the gorilla. The gorilla's gonna be like, I don't have to do anything.
If I can unite them against this gorilla,
but here's my thing.
The gorilla's gonna be like, you guys are crazy. I don't want any of this.
Here's my thing with Draymond, and I think I would have picked Draymond as well, but I don't have him as high as you did. I don't think that guy can fight. I think he can sucker punch, but he's a lot of bark. Isaiah Stewart can fight. I don't think Draymond can fight.
I just need him to sucker punch the gorilla.
Ow, my hand.
Draymond
We're going to podcast
Saginaw.
about this.
Plus, he throws kicks.
He does. He does throw kicks.
Facts.
He's going to come at my guy, Steven Adams.
Correct. That dude from Saginaw. If y'all don't know nothing about that, look it up. I'll give you all the answers you're looking for right there.
It's fair enough. You got 2 picks, though, Gerald.
I do. And I'm going to go with someone who is an extremely pleasant personality, who will only hint at violence when he is provoked. But in this situation against a gorilla, he will be provoked. So give me Bismack Biyombo, because that man would stand on business in a fight. I 100% believe that.
The Bismack Biyombo not on my board, but I do like the pick. So far, Gerald, you have...
I have Isaiah Stewart, Draymond Green, and Bismack Biyombo.
All right. So joining for me with Steven Adams and Nikola Jokic, I've got my brute strength and my size. Now I need a little bit of crazy. I need somebody who's willing to get down in the mud and get dirty. Somebody who I think has been forgotten this year when it comes to that. Give me Marcus Smart.
Oh, wow.
Me Marcus Smart.
I don't even think I had him on my board.
Yeah, I told you he's forgotten.
Yeah, now he's in Washington. That's
if I get into a fight, bring me Marcus Smart.
Okay. It's an unconventional pick, but I like a little variety.
Yeah.
All right, Steven, you're on the clock for 2 back-to-back picks.
Marcus Smart is a very interesting pick. He's someone that I definitely had on my board because he strikes off the he has a tick to him.
Mm-hmm.
He has that tick to him in particular. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm gonna go with, and I'm really on the edge right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with PJ Tucker.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Give me PJ Tucker.
It's a good pick.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Current PJ Tucker doesn't have the athleticism to him that he would have a couple years ago.
But he still got the grown man, old man strength.
I think PJ Tucker might be able to beat a gorilla in an arm wrestling competition.
I believe so. And that's why he's on my team.
That's fair enough. Who's joining PJ Tucker? And then who else do you have? Dylan Brooks and James Johnson.
And James Johnson. This one I wanted to go with someone a little bit bigger. We haven't necessarily seen him throw hands to that extent, but Bobby Portis.
That you need a little crazy.
He has the tick to him as well that I spoke to Marcus Smart having, for sure.
He definitely does.
I think I might get the steal of the draft here.
Okay.
Because all I'm going to do is put the gorilla in a Tyrese Halliburton jersey, and I'm getting Giannis on my team. Because... First of all,
so you're going home in the first round?
First of all,
exactly.
The measure, not if it's Giannis, Jokic, and Marcus Smart. No, but the thing with Giannis is he's got the measurables for sure. I think he's got that. And he's a very calm, measured guy. But if you provoke him and you push him, we saw him very early in his career against your Chicago Bulls, I believe. Just lay out. It was Kirk Heinrich, right? Your Chicago Bulls. So. I think Giannis, I'm surprised Giannis fell this late. I think he's got the size, the speed, the mentality of it. He's got a family to fight for at home. So give me
everybody has a family to fight for at home. What?
Why they gotta be at home?
I don't know. Just well, they're all wearing the jumpers with his whole
the
body.
thing that I covet in a fighter is that they have a family.
Something to fight for. Something to fight for, damn it.
That's crazy.
From somewhere.
Gerald, who rounds out your final? Do you have 2 more or just one?
I have 2 back-to-back picks to close out my draft here. So I got Stewart, Draymond, Bismack, Biyombo. Oh, man, I want to take an unconventional pick, but I feel like I'm going to get roasted for it.
Do it.
Also, he's technically not even. Do it. All right, I'm going to take Jonas Valanciunas because outside of Steven Adams, if you had to pick someone in the NBA that has some animal pelt in their house that they themselves killed, it would probably be Jonas Valanciunas, right? If you just saw a lion head and skin laying on the floor of his house, you'd be like, oh, he probably did that himself. So I'm going to take Jonas.
Okay.
And then I don't even care anymore. This is too funny. I am going to take, he's not even in the NBA, so I don't know if this will count, but I'm taking Patrick Beverley because you're going to throw him at the gorilla. In chess, the pawns go first. And if he dies, he dies. But you have someone to break the ice. Dude. You have someone who is fodder right off the top, someone who's crazy, who's going to antagonize the gorilla.
That's fair.
And then my other 4 guys are going to mob him. So
that's fair.
Patrick Beverley,
you're going to be fighting each other.
Patrick Beverley, thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for clearing a lane for Draymond to
somebody clip that
sucker punch and kick.
Okay, so your team is?
My team is Isaiah Stewart, Draymond Green, Bismack Biyombo, Jonas Valanciunas, and Patrick Beverley, formerly of the NBA.
Formerly of NBA fame. Remember when he told Steph the next 10 years were his?
I do. Come on. I now am putting that, and he's going to tell the gorilla that.
Okay.
The next 20 minutes are mine.
A lot of good players still on the board here. I've got Steven Adams, Nikola Jokic, Marcus Smart, Giannis, and who is going to round out my team? Who's got hands? Oh, actually, you know what? I think I just need a little bit of crazy. Noah is... That's funny. Noah looks like he's ready to scream a Detroit Piston name. I'm considering him, just so that you know. Smart. I'm considering him. I'm just going to say it because I know Steven has a strategy. Nothing I say will shake what Steven will want to draft. Considering Jalen Duren.
Yep.
Considering... Oh, man, who was it? Just slipped my mind. Dang.
Tyler Hero?
Not Tyler Hero. Definitely not Tyler Hero.
Ron Holland.
Huh?
Ron Holland.
Ron Holland is definitely one as well. I think, but the thing is, like, you can have the crazy and you can have the grit, but like, this is a gorilla. I think you need the size. I'll take Jalen Duren. I'll take Jalen Duren.
It's not a bad pick to close things out. Did anyone consider Zach Edey at all?
A little bit.
I thought about him, and then I thought about how he looks.
He's skinny
At times, trying to grab rebounds against guards that are close to my height.
Yeah,
and I thought otherwise.
He's got the reach.
Yeah, but the gorilla's gonna go, and then his arm's just gonna break.
That is. I
thought about taking Ja Morant on the chance that he could sneak a weapon in.
Oh, come on.
Oh my god.
Come on.
Steven, your final pick.
Well, if that's the case, then
Give me Gilbert Arenas.
Do it. Not even gonna do it. Not even gonna do it. Nope. Not gonna do it. I'm going with Boban Marjanovic.
Oh wow. Okay, we're bringing Boban out.
Bobby.
He was in a John Wick movie.
It's true.
This is fair.
He got his ass kicked though, didn't he?
Least you can do is have someone.
I've got his ass kicked.
Least you can do is have someone that the Bears gonna at least have to look up to or look like, oh, you're a big individual.
Mm-hmm.
So strategy wise, if that person comes after Dylan Brooks being my pawn, right? He's not gonna actually throw. Mm-hmm. He's just gonna show that energy, and the Bears gonna be like, okay, who? And then after him is Boban and everyone else on my team.
So here's the only thing, Steve.
I got a little strategy.
Here's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're not fighting a bear.
I mean, not bear. I'm thinking. I don't know why I keep saying bear. I take that back because I was thinking about my guy from the Sixers for a minute.
From the Sixers.
The Sixers. Not Joel Embiid.
Dancing Bear is his nickname.
Dancing Bear.
Yes.
The TikTok guy?
No.
No. The TikTok guy.
I don't think I've heard the nickname Dancing Bear. Have you heard the nickname Dancing Bear?
No. Who's the Dancing Bear?
Everybody that we wanted on the Suns this season.
Oh,
Gershon.
I didn't realize
Yabusele's nickname is the Dancing Bear. Gershon's a good pick. Gershon's a good pick.
Gershon was in my back pocket.
Yeah,
that's why I kept saying Bear because I'm thinking of Gershon.
He's thinking of Dancing Bear,
and that's not what I was looking for.
Did anyone think about Zion or LeBron?
Thought about Zion, not LeBron.
Okay.
Zion off pure like size and athleticism and like low man wins, body mass to the ground.
Yeah, BMI. He would. Yeah,
ground and pound.
Who do you? Zion, what we would do is I'd take Steven Adams and Jokic, and they would go like back and forth with Zion, and then they would launch Zion into the gorilla like a bull.
Bold of you to assume they could actually do that.
Fair. It's fair.
I never considered LeBron though.
Was anyone tempted by Desmond Bain?
No,
you just roll him up in a bowling ball. And
there's a wingspan problem.
Yeah, he can't. Yeah, his punches are not going to be able to reach because he has to be so close. Thought about it.
Leo says Wemby. I think Wemby's too thin.
Nah, Wemby not cut for
that. This is not just for like my big guys. I picked because they're thick guys, not because they're tall.
Yeah,
you know how in like superhero movies where like one superhero gets just absolutely like crunched by the villain to establish that the villain is like all that. That would be the gorilla with Wemby. You would snap him in half, and the rest of the team would be like, "Oh my god." That's the end of it for Wemby. Any other notable names?
I mean, I'm just looking at the chat. They're all saying legends. Okay. So maybe that's next week's snake draft. If this conversation is still going. Wild Factor says DeMarcus Cousins. If it was prime Boogie, I think prime Boogie would definitely be up there as well. Prime Tony Allen, I think would be interesting.
Okay.
But as far as current players, I think there are a couple. But if Ish Wainwright was still in the league, that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody on the Suns currently? Mason Plumlee?
No.
Tyus Jones.
I think I skipped Tyus Jones. I think I skipped the Suns entirely.
Kevin Durant versus a gorilla. Okay.
Oh, God.
We do have 2 super chats from Be Calm, See Clearly. The perfect way to end a Friday.
There we go.
$2 super chat from Be Calm, See Clearly says, "Oh my God, Steven legs are fire. All cutesy though, devil emoji." Then he follows it up with an additional $5 and says, "Why is Eric legs so thick?" Crying emoji. "Gerald, show off them legs, please. I want to see. But I like Noah's legs. They the best. They need a massage." True. Heart emoji. "And Booker's legs. flexing 2 fire emojis.
There's so many things to take from that.
Appreciate all of you hanging out with us here on a Friday. You can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. Shout out the voice of Be Calm, See Clearly behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. You can follow Steven, or as I like to call him, Stevie Baseball, at StevenPG3. That's Steven with a PH. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget, also known as Father of Goku. And you can follow me at ERIKRUBY. No nicknames, especially not the one that Hello put in the chat earlier. Enjoy your weekend. Take Steven's advice and try to breathe, and I'll do that myself. We'll talk to you all on Monday.
We all silly like the mayor.